name is Alicia Perkins. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and you have come to the S.H.E.R.O Spotlight. So for those of you who are new to the S.H.E.R.O Spotlight, man, thank you for coming though. And for those who are returning, welcome back. And so just I want to explain a little bit about S.H.E.R.O Spotlight for those of you who are new. So this started kind of around the pandemic when everybody was going through a lot. Mental health is a big thing. And like I said, I am a licensed clinical social worker. So I started doing these Saturday Seeds, doing a little words of wisdom every Saturday. And then that ended up spiraling into the S.H.E.R.O Spotlight. And I wanted to really spotlight moms because we are unsung heroes. We do a lot, but sometimes you don't hear a lot about it. So it's so many wonderful women out there, and I just really want to shed some light on them, but not only talk about what they're doing and their accomplishment, but also their adversities. And the reason why I'm focused on that, because when I was going through my dark, deepest moment of dealing with the divorce, I was dealing with depression. Yes, I'm a therapist, but I didn't reach out for help initially. And so I really felt like I was alone. And I know that I'm not the only person that suffered with depression, but during that moment, I felt alone. And so what S.H.E.R.O Spotlight is about showing that we all, some of us have the same journey. And we want to show you women that can overcome those journeys that you may be on. You may be walking that same path that someone else is walking. And when you see her overcome, you say, do that too. So it's all about inspiration. So that's what we're doing tonight. And so I have with me with Miss Kori Spriggs. I was about to say your maiden name. Kori Spriggs with us tonight. I'm so honored to have her. Kori, she used to take care of my daughter when she was in daycare. So to see her evolve into a wife, a mom, and now a children's book author, I mean, I'm like, girl, you got to come on here and share the love with everybody. And so, Kori, tell us a bit about yourself.
So, good evening, everyone. As she said, my name is Kori. I am a wife to my amazing husband, Devontae. I don't know if he's on here. He should be. And my daughter is watching as well. I actually have two children. So I have a bonus daughter, and then I have our daughter, Kennedy, and my bonus baby is Serenity. They are 6, and Serenity will be 4. And then I am a social worker by occupation, but I am a children's book author. I am originally from New York, but I've been down here in North Carolina so long. And my husband cracks on me all the time that he doesn't allow me to claim being from New York City because I've been in North Carolina so long.
Yeah,
so
you
I'm
don't have
from
the
New
accent
York
either,
City,
honey.
North Carolina. Right.
Right, you don't have the New York accent. So right, we welcome you here in the South.
Yeah. But I'm excited to be on here to share with you guys, to talk with you guys. And I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And I want to share with you all what a S.H.E.R.O is. All you all probably know is S.H.E.R.O is a female hero. But I created an acronym as I talked about my time dealing with depression, because this is what helped me get out of depression. So S stands for sacrificing for my children, H is healing from my past hurts, E is evolving into what God wants me to be, R is revealing my truth, and O is obtaining my goals and happiness. So when I do my interviews, I kind of break it down based on my acronym. So the first one is sacrificing for my child or my children. Kori, do you feel sacrifice is one of the hardest parts of motherhood? Why or why not?
So I think sacrifice is, my initial answer is going to be yes.
Okay.
My follow-up to my initial answer is I think that it's all about your perspective, especially being a new parent. My perspective of sacrifice as someone who's been a parent for 6 years is so different than it was when I first had my daughter. So I think your perspective of sacrifice kind of seems like, man, I have to give this up. But when you are intentional with your sacrifice, it makes a difference in how you look at it. So I know that when I sacrifice certain things, or when I'm making the decision to sacrifice, it's for the betterment of my child or my family. So it's less of like I'm losing and more of like this is building.
Got you. Oh, I love that. Yes. Yeah, because it's less of that burden when you look at the bigger picture. And like you said, growth mindset. What is the greatest sacrifice you've made for your children?
The greatest sacrifice. I don't know. I feel, I want to say time, because we're always, I don't want to say we're always, but we are always essentially giving up hanging out because we gotta
Right.
prep, hanging out because we gotta clean, or doing stuff that we, I guess, could do if we weren't parents because
Mhm.
we are parents.
Right.
So time, sleep, we sacrifice sleep all the time. We
Yes,
sacrifice
honey. Yes.
money all the time.
Yes.
So those would probably be the greatest.
Right. Now, healing from my past hurts. So, after giving birth to your daughter, you dealt with something that changed your life journey. Please share your
Yes.
adversity with everyone.
Okay, so I dealt with postpartum. So a little backstory is I graduated from the North Carolina Central University.
Hey, we got
Eagle
some. Is it rain?
Pride.
What is that? What is their mascot? I was about to say Rams. That's Winston
Ooh,
State. I was wrong.
ooh,
I didn't graduate from HBCU. Don't hate on me.
Eagle Pride.
Hey, Eagle,
But
I didn't say Aggie, okay? See, I was all
yes, no Aggies over here.
right.
But I graduated from Central in 2017, December of 2017. But I had my daughter in October of 2017. So at the time, my mind was like, girl, you're not going to be able to finish college. It's just not going to work. You're just going to have to be that girl who got pregnant in college and just say, hey, it is what it is. But thanks be unto God, he allowed me and gave me the grace to kind of go back and finish and get my degree. Like there were days I was taking my daughter to class
Mhm.
because I was like, you got to do this. You are
Right.
literally right here.
You're
You
too
can't
close,
just
right?
quit. So I made it through that. Of course, with the support of my family, and
Mhm.
everyone. And then after that, I went through postpartum.
Mhm.
On the onset of it, I didn't know that it was postpartum. Postpartum
Mhm.
is not something that we as a community discuss, or
Right.
that you don't hear a lot of conversation about it. I think today you hear more conversation about it, but you don't hear as much. And I
Right.
think it's something that needs to be discussed and explained and welcomed in a way. And the reason why I
Mhm.
say welcomed is because it's not something that you can choose to go through. It's
Right. Right.
literally a hormonal imbalance of your body going through the changes after you've given
Mhm.
birth.
Right.
So I went through postpartum, didn't know that I was going through postpartum.
Mhm.
And I was just like, okay, what is going on? Why am I feeling like this? Or why am I going through these emotions? Or why
Right.
do I have this sense of resentment or things like that?
Mhm.
And I just started having conversations with other people that I knew were moms,
Mhm.
and started having conversations with them to find out that they were feeling like this, and they were,
Right.
and I was just like, okay. And I was a little hesitant about having those conversations because
Right.
I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want anybody to think I was crazy, or, oh, you
Mhm.
just feeling like this because you, whatever, for whatever reason. But then I started talking to my mom. And then I had some mention of it with my doctor, but again, I wasn't too fond on like having the conversation because I didn't want to look bad, or I didn't want to be
Right.
embarrassed.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to put my business out there for somebody to, I didn't want to feel any type of judgment. But I
Right.
went through that. And once I started realizing, like, hey, there are women out here who have been experiencing the same thing you're experiencing, but they're not talking about it.
Mhm.
Or they don't know that this is postpartum. They just think it's something wrong with them, or they don't know how to work through it, or they don't know how to
Right.
talk through it, or they're not comfortable with having that conversation. And that's
Right.
kind of how I got into creating my support group for moms, which is Mommy's Corner.
Mhm. That's awesome. You said a lot of things in that. So let's talk a little bit more about the postpartum. Can
Mhm.
you kind of share some signs and symptoms for people who may not know what that is or what it looks like?
Yes. So with postpartum, and what I've learned too is that it looks different for so many
Right,
people.
right.
Because I was a very high functioning person to have postpartum depression.
Mhm.
I was moody, yes. I was emotional, yes. I was
Right,
self-critical, yes. I just wasn't I didn't understand a lot of the things that was happening at the time. I didn't feel like I had support. My way of thinking was just really off.
mhm.
Um, and I don't I yeah, it was a weird space. But I was still
Yeah,
going through life every day like, "Oh, I'm fine,"
right,
or, "Hey, I'm good." People would ask, "Do you need help?" "I'm okay. I'm good. I got it." I didn't wanna take support of people or have to depend on people,
right,
um, which kinda made it harder for me, but I wasn't ready to kind of voice that.
right. And that's usually hard for moms because we're used to just taking care of everybody. So we're going to
Yep,
do it alone. We don't need any help. We have our zone and we're focused and we're like,
yes,
we're good. We're good. But
yep,
it is the power of your story, kind of like I was talking about in the introduction. Sometimes we think we're going through something alone, but when you share your story, and if you don't share your story, you would never know. If you
exactly,
don't speak up, and sometimes we don't speak up because we are ashamed. We think people going to judge us, but your story is also your power and your truth.
exactly.
Um, and so that's very important. But with postpartum, 1 in 8 women experience symptoms of postpartum. And some of the symptoms, like Kori was saying, the moodiness, crying a lot, feeling disconnected from your child, feeling that resentment. So those are some of the symptoms. And so when you're feeling that, definitely talk to your doctor, because
Yes,
there are medications that help. And again, with postpartum, it's typically temporary,
yes,
but it can lead into, your major depression though, if, left untreated. But there are some really serious cases to the point where I've had work with moms who was thinking about harming their baby because
yes.
that's how their mind is thinking at the time. So you definitely need to seek that help. Now, how did you end up overcoming this? And I know you said you talked to other people, so that was some of your release there, but what
Yep.
else?
That was some of my outlet. My family, they were
Mhm.
major, major supportive, and honestly, God.
Yes.
When I after I first had my daughter, I stopped going to church for a while.
Mhm.
And at the time, I thought I could identify what it is, and now that I look back at it, um, I was in my mind looking back. I'm like, girl, why you wasn't at church? You can't. You need that. Which is
It's
how
that
I know that
isolation.
my exactly, my state of mind
Right,
was not in a place of it just wasn't where it needed to be because
right,
now
mhm,
I'm like, I gotta go to church.
right.
I need every
Amen.
bit of word that I can get. Yes, of course, I read my word at home, but I need that fellowship. I need that interaction. I
Mhm.
need that environment just to be, uplifted. And um, I was missing out.
Right, right. And I would just say to those out there and just, people, family support is very
Yes.
important as well. Because me being a first time mom, and I'm not having any more either, it's hard, because, like you said, you lose time, you lose sleep, taking care of that child and you don't feel like yourself. I mean, think
Mhm.
about your body is going through so many changes within a short amount of time when you're giving birth to a child, like a whole human that came out of you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you have to function and now take care of this human after you just had them. It's a lot mentally and physically. So for
Yes.
husbands out there, significant others out there, just family. And I thank God for my mom at the time who came down and she's
Yes.
a nurse and she helped take care of my daughter at the time. And I don't know what I would have done without her because I was also experiencing that too. It's just like I was feeling like just giving up because it was just
Yes.
so much. And that's some
Mhm.
of the risk factors too of postpartum, dealing with stressful events.
Yes.
If you have a history of family history of mental illness and those type of things, those are also risk factors to that. And so probably with you having your child plus going to school, that's stressful. That was a lot in one.
Absolutely. And I will say another thing is to find your village. Your village is not
Absolutely.
always your family. And that's not to say it can't be your family,
True.
but not
That's very
everybody
true.
has family members. So even
Mhm.
if it's not someone that's your family, make sure that they're trustworthy and that they
Mhm.
understand their role and their boundaries, but utilize your village. It's okay to say, hey, I need help with this. Hey, can you give
Yes,
me a break for 30
absolutely.
minutes? Hey, I just want to go to the store and get some groceries. Can I walk around the store for a few minutes while you watch this person or while you do
Mhm.
that? Utilize them because there are people who are connected to you with intention. They're connected to
Absolutely.
you for a reason. So definitely utilize your village.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help because I know it's hard, but ask.
Right.
And a lot of times you will find out people are so willing to do that.
Yes.
So, and next is evolving into what God wants you to be. So, in revealing your truth and sharing your story, you just decide to start, Mommy's Corner, which you talked about. So,
Mhm.
share a little bit more about that and, website, social media, promote that to everyone so they can follow you.
Okay, so I have Mommy's Corner. We have a Facebook group here on Facebook that if you put it in a search bar, it should come up
Okay.
that you can join. It's just a platform that I created when I was dealing with and getting through postpartum.
Hmm.
Because what I realized is if nobody's having this conversation, there's a lot of people
Right.
who kind of feel by themselves or don't have that safe space or that environment to say, hey, I'm going through this too. Hey, I'm
Hmm.
experiencing this too. Or hey, I need a little bit of encouragement today from someone who I know can relate to me and that I won't feel judged or I won't feel any type of shame attached to expressing this. So I created that just to empower moms, to let
Yes.
them know, like, hey, you got this. And sometimes we need that reminder. I got this. It's okay. My child had a
Right.
meltdown the other day before school, and I just had to, okay, girl, take a minute, pause, get yourself
Right.
together. It's okay. You got this. It's a meltdown. We're going to have a great rest of our day. But sometimes you need to hear that from somebody else. Or
Right.
sometimes you need to get in the group and see somebody else's child had a meltdown and they an hour late to school too. And you kind of got to laugh it off and be like, okay, so I'm not by myself
Right.
because what in the world?
Exactly.
But just that space to say, like, okay, somebody else is going through the same thing I'm going through. I'm not by myself. And to
Exactly.
empower moms. And that's kind of what we do. We do different events.
Hmm.
We do virtual events. We do sip and paints, just kind of to get the moms in a space of also being intentional about having time for them. Because as a
Right.
mom, you're so on the go, on the go, on the go
Mhm.
that we don't know how to plan time for us.
Right.
Planning
You're
time for
right.
us is literally like, okay, I got to get my clothes out. Let me get her clothes out. Let me get my
Right.
husband's clothes out. Or let me do this. Let me make sure they got lunch. That's our
Mhm.
time. And typically our time is once the kids have gone to bed.
Right.
And so we just have to be a little bit more intentional of, well, hey, let me wake up Saturday morning and go get me some coffee or go for a walk throughout the day or do something that I want to do, get my hair done, get my nails done. This
Right.
is again utilizing that village to make sure that you are pouring into you. Because one
Exactly.
of the things that I've learned and I'm continuing to learn is that I can't pour if I'm empty.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's one of my
And I
favorite
can't
quotes. Yes.
receive if I'm full and I'm not
Right.
pouring. So
Absolutely. Yes. I see the love and the comments out here, and I put Mommy's Corner
yes.
out there. So definitely go to her page and check it out and follow her so you can find out upcoming events, especially if you're local. But like you said, they do some virtual events too. So you have to be
Yes.
local. But again, I feel like the safe space and networking of moms is so important. Because of me too, like I said, when I was a new mom, it was just like I felt like I was doing everything wrong. I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I was always late, or either I didn't know what was going on in the
Yes.
daycare. Like I just said no, it's like I'm terrible. But when I talked to other moms that had that, we all were struggling together. So we all
Yes.
looked out for one another. It was like that village. And so that helped
Yes.
me a lot to get through. And even now, I have other moms I talk to and just be real about it. And we don't judge
Yes.
one another. And like some
Mm-mm.
days it's such, mother to be a love-hate relationship.
Yes.
Some days you be like, oh my
Yes.
God, it's too much, what I'm saying? And just having that safe space to talk and they're like, girl, I feel you. I'm with you.
Yes.
Same thing
But
here.
tomorrow we're
And
gonna get
sometimes you
up
just
and
need to
do it.
normalize it.
Yes.
and not think that everybody has it together.
Yeah.
Now I want you now to talk about your book.
All right. So
Well,
I
first of all, before you talk about the book itself, tell us what motivated you or inspired you to become an author and write this book.
okay, so the first thing I'll say as far as the book is this book is a God thing.
Mm,
I had no intentions on writing a children's book. I used to be a preschool teacher, so at one point it would have been something amazing to do, but at this point in my life, never did I think, "Hey, girl, you're gonna write a children's book and you're
right?
gonna publish it, and it's gonna be amazing."
Uh-huh.
Never. So it's really all God, and I've been asking Him to order my steps throughout all of this because I know the message that I want to convey. And I know that this could be really impactful, and I want it to be impactful, not just to children, but
Right.
to moms, parents, teachers. We have such a great level of influence with
Hmm.
and on our children, even if they're not ours, but the children that we interact with. So just
Right.
making sure that our influence is again intentional is one of the biggest things for me.
Hmm. Right. I just love it. Now, Shira, now about your book and what it's
So my
well,
book is, I got a copy of it right here. So I wrote a children's book. I don't know if you guys can really
well,
see
I'll
all
show
that
mine
good.
because you have the
There we
blurb.
go. So I wrote a children's book. This particular book is about my daughter. And I was sitting at work one day and I was just like thinking like my daughter finds joy in simple things.
Mhm.
Me when I was a kid, my daughter likes to wash the dishes. I mean, she will literally beg us to wash the dishes. And
Oh
it
gosh,
kind of baffles me a little bit because I'm like, girl, I do what? When my mom
I
used to be
hated
like,
the
hey, go wash those
dishes.
dishes. I used to be like, Mom, please, no.
Uh-huh. That was me. I
So
had
to
every excuse.
exactly right. I was tired. I was hungry.
Right.
I had homework, but so to see her find like joy in that, I mean, she will go to town and be ready. Oh no, I got it. I can do them. And I'm like, oh, okay. So when I would see things like that, I would think like, wow, she's really this is something that she loves to do. Although
Right.
it's something treacherous to me that I wouldn't want to do, she is really like, oh, it's okay. I'll do it. It's okay if this has a
Right.
lot of stuff on it. It's something that made her find joy or experience a feeling of joy. And I don't want to say feeling, but it brought joy to her. It was
Joy.
something that she likes
Right.
to do.
I love that.
Um, and so I was like, kids today don't really understand that there's joy in the simple things. We're very technology based
Very much so.
society
Yes.
now. So everything is TikTok, social media, YouTube. I got to make a video doing this. I got to do that.
Mhm.
Or I don't want to ride my bike outside, or I don't want to go outside, period, really.
Mhm.
And so I was just like, this is a great way to kind of resurface that foundation of you can have joy at any moment, at any time throughout your day. You can have like experience that and express it or spread it or allow people to see that you have joy because it's contagious. When you are spreading your kindness, your love, your regardless of what's going on, that is contagious.
Very
And I
true.
think it starts early with letting kids know how important this is and how okay it is and how to create that safe space or yeah, that safe space for children, even though they're
Right.
smaller. They may not
Hmm.
have like an in-depth understanding of it, but just to have that space of, oh my God, I can be myself here, or I can say
Right.
that I love this, or I can say that this, or I can
Mm.
love on this person, although my day is not going well. Like
Right.
just having those interactions, they
Hmm.
matter. And I think it starts with our children and having them identify what that looks like.
Right. I absolutely love the book. I'm so glad I got my copy. So I encourage you all. I mean, Christmas is right around the corner.
Yes, it
Any little kid
is.
will love this. I mean, just shout. My daughter
Yes.
is 10 and she loved it as well. And also the coloring, she has a coloring book that goes with it as well.
Yeah.
If you want to purchase that. But I told her this was gorgeous. I mean, the illustration, I mean, just beautiful. Like I was like, they did great. Look at this. Look
Thank
at this. And then I
you.
also just love representation because my daughter, she's a darker complexion, you know, because she always says, "Wow,
Yes.
dark," and things like that. And to see this represented, I mean, that meant a lot to me as a
Yes.
mom. But also, like Kori was saying, this book is a gift that will keep on giving because if we're teaching them early on about joy and spreading it, it's going to be something that sticks with them. And I just absolutely love this book.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And
So
it's
now tell
also for
everybody
me.
they get the book.
Oh, you guys can get it on Amazon. It is on Amazon. The book and the coloring book are both on Amazon. If you type in "This Brings Me Joy" in your search bar, it'll pop right up. And then I believe that the coloring book should be right up under it.
All right. And if anybody has the link, I know your husband's out here, put the link out there in the chat so they can go ahead and hit it up.
Please.
Yes, put it out there, please. Thank you. Because I can't type it that fast.
Right.
But I mean, like I said again, I just love the concept. Now, when we get to revealing your truth, many struggle with work-life balance and finding time, as we've been talking about, and you've talked about it a lot already about being intentional.
Yep.
Why is that so important, having intentional encounters?
Ooh, because guys, as someone who honestly identifying your work-life balance is hard. It is so hard because you, as a mom, you can sometimes experience mom guilt. And mom guilt is a real thing. But one thing I will say is tomorrow is another day. You, whatever you don't get done today, it is okay. You can get it done tomorrow or the next day. Just make sure you are planning it out or make sure you have a plan in place. Work-life balance is very important because work is stressful. Life can be stressful.
Right.
So you kind of got to weigh out, all right, now, how, which one am I going? You just got to be able to give to some, and make sure you're continuously giving to you.
Right.
And life is not just always doing for others. Sometimes it's doing for you. So you really do have to be intentional about planning your days out, planning your self-care out,
Yeah.
planning everything kind of out. And it's harder than we kind of talk about it. It's not something that just happens overnight.
Right.
Because both of my daughters, 6 and 4, still trying to figure out work-life balance. There are
Mhm.
times where I'm like, I have to work overtime tonight, or I have to work extra this week, or but I also have to realize, well, you got to kind of spend time with your kids. You have to give your kids attention because work will also be there tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just setting those proper boundaries in place to make sure that your family is taken care of, as well as you're doing what you need to do with work.
Right. And as I've gotten older in life, I've realized how valuable time is. If you think about it, like time you cannot get back. So
Can't.
I even use this with my clients, like, how are you spending your time? Are you going to spend your time on something that's not productive and that's not going to benefit you? Or are you going to spend time with your children because that's creating memories, something they can remember for a lifetime?
Exactly.
So it's just like I really choose my time and how I spend it very wisely because it's mine.
Right?
And protect your time, as I tell people, protect your peace is the same thing. Protect your time.
Protect your
And that's when you
time.
have to use boundaries and tell people no, and no is a complete sentence. That no, I can't do that, because I have learned too, because I used to put a lot on my plate. And like I
Yes.
always use the example, if you're to cook out and you have that plastic plate and you keep piling food up on it, guess what? It's gonna break. The same thing. And so
Yeah.
I want to be really intentional, like you were saying, with my time and who I spend it with. So I just really
Mm-hmm.
love that concept. Now, in the age of social media, we get
Woo.
an inside look of people's lives.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are showing us the good parts of their lives, when in reality, that's not the truth. but it gives
Yes.
us like onlookers a
False
falsehood of
narrative.
reality. And I get this a
Mhm.
lot with clients that I have and stuff, or what success looks like. So they're doing that comparison. Oh, my life sucks because it's not like this, but you don't even know what that person's going through. That could always all be faking the funk, basically. So how do you
Absolutely.
think masking the truth impacts joy? And what is your advice in how to find joy dealing with the societal pressures?
Ooh, so the first question was, repeat that first part.
How do you think masking the truth impacts your joy?
Ooh, how do I think masking the truth impacts my joy? That is loaded. Um, I don't know. So from what I've learned, masking the truth, it does nothing for you really. Because then it leaves you holding on to something. And I don't want to say for nothing, but really for nothing. Because you said it earlier today. We don't realize how sharing some of our truths will impact others. And
Right,
then that kind of it takes the weight off of you because the whole time you're thinking, well, no, I can't let them know that because they're not going through that. I don't want to feel this way. And then it's not until you share your truth that they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going through the same thing, or I'm experiencing that same thing.
right.
Now, we
Mhm.
are in a world where society is very social media based and very, and one thing I'm learning to do is turn it off.
Yes. Mhm.
Turn it
Yes.
off because when you turn it off, you relieve the pressure of setting an expectation for your life based off of somebody else's life that probably doesn't even exist the way you think.
Right.
Um, so you're just putting unnecessary pressure on yourself based off of a false narrative or a narrative that you really don't know. So it doesn't, it's just kind of not purposeful. So it's sometimes good to kind of just take a break.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
because when you take a break, you kind of realize that your mindset about life changes because
Mhm.
we're not going based off of what I see or what the next person is doing. We're going based off of what's in front of us, what we're actually dealing with.
Right. Right. And one of my other favorite quotes is comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
And so I have learned as time has gone on in my life is just if I just focus on what God has for me and my purpose, I'm tuning out everything else. I've never
Yes.
been a person that I'm going to compare myself to such and such that they got this or whatever. I need to focus on what God put me on earth to do, Alicia, what he has for me, because
Exactly.
whatever he has for you, that's what you need to be focused on because he's going to get you to another level. But if you're focused on everybody else, how will you ever get there? If you're,
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying? So it's just like we do. And I agree with that. Sometimes we have to take a break from social media. I too, sometimes I 2 hours go by, I'm like, just social media looking at stuff. So I need to use my time again. We go back to time wisely
Yeah.
and focus on what God has for us and following our
Exactly.
path so we won't get
Exactly.
distracted or compare our lives because that's going to steal our joy. It's going to take away
Mhm.
our joy. And if you all know that God gives us joy,
Exactly. I was just about to talk about that. Yeah.
right? And so when we get to like obtaining your goals and happiness, do you feel you need joy to experience happiness?
So I'm gonna say no. And I wrote down because I was looking it up the best way to kind of explain it. And I wrote down, so first of all, joy is one of the fruits of the spirit.
Right?
It's
Uh-huh.
not something that is I read something earlier today that it said it's not the byproduct of happiness. So you can experience joy while you're going through a difficult situation.
Mhm.
Happiness is based off of your circumstances. Joy is not.
Mhm.
Um, and I wrote down so many different things, but joy doesn't need a smile to exist.
Mhm.
And I also read that, what did I read? I read something that I specifically wanted to share that said joy can transform a difficult time into a blessing.
Mm. I like
And
that.
so I'm like, wow, that's a great way to look at it because I don't have to be happy about what I'm going through to realize, wow, I could have joy in this. I am me experiencing this is the evidence that God is in me
Right.
because something terrible has happened, but here I am feeling peace and comfort
There you
and
go. Yeah.
like I'm safe. that's the
Mhm.
evidence that God is giving you the spirit of joy, and you just got to stand in that.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree with that because joy doesn't waver.
At
Happiness is
all.
depends on the situation.
The
Joy is
circumstance, exactly.
within, it's down within, is what God has given you. And so even like you said, when you're going through the storm, you still have that joy because you know God is in control. So
Exactly.
I just love that and just finding that joy. And I have been on a journey to, get there. And now I'm starting to
Mhm.
find more joy, saying in things and remembering that and putting that in the forefront. Because sometimes it does get hard. It's just like, oh my gosh, saying, but if you really are focused on God, He's going to give it to you. He's going to let you know you're
Exactly.
going to be all right. You're going to make it through this.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. And
And
I
then
love that
also with
about
like,
him.
yeah, and when we were talking about too about sharing your story, and I know sometimes people don't want to share their story because they don't want others to judge and things of that nature. And like I was saying, when I was dealing with depression, and some of you have heard this before, who've already been on S.H.E.R.O before, is that I didn't want to tell anyone because I'm a therapist. Like, wow, I tell somebody I'm going through this. I can deal with this my own self, say I can do this. I got it, saying, but I didn't. And even when I would talk to some of my friends who were also therapists, I wasn't being candid. I was just, I wasn't telling them
Surface
truly what
level.
was really going on. Like, it was really surface. And so finally, when I did seek therapy, it just changed everything for me. But not only that, the biggest part of it is when I finally shared my story at a women's breakfast that I was doing. I was speaking on about depression and mental health, and I shared my story. After that, so many women came up to me and was like, oh my God, I've been going through the same thing. And that's why I
Wow.
said your story is your power. And if I never would
Yes.
have spoke, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have touched so many people's lives and now have speaking engagement, people come and ask me to speak. I mean, it was just a powerful movement. It was so funny too, because someone in my family was like, I couldn't tell all that. I was just like, but it was my truth. And the saying goes,
Mm-hmm.
the truth shall set you free.
Set
And
you
that's so
free.
true. It
Yes.
did. And that's when my healing truly began, when I revealed my truth. And it was no longer, I wasn't masking anything anymore. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
pretending that I had it all together. It was like, no, this really
Exactly.
happened to me. And so just know that. And I see a lot of hearts in there. When you're going through something, don't hide it. Like if you're somebody dealing with cancer, and I've had some S.H.E.R.Os on here dealing with cancer, they have touched people because they shared their story and they say, but I overcame, and this is what I did when I was going through that.
Yes.
When you think that your life is on the line and that you're going to die, how do you deal with that? And people have. And so your story may change somebody's life. Just about
Exactly.
hearing that. So don't let shame, and shame to me is of the devil. He's trying to make you feel ashamed,
Absolutely.
not to share your story. And your story is going to push you further in what God has for you. So share your story.
Share your
Reveal your
story, y'all.
truth.
Share your truth.
And then the last question for the night, Kori, is what is your greatest joy in life? And what is the next chapter for you?
Oh, my greatest joy in life. Um, my family, to be able to be here with my family and build legacy, build a life, um, do something with my family that wasn't necessarily done with me. My daughter is the face of a children's book. Like this
Yes.
is something that is gonna, be with her for life. And that's something that I'm like, man, we couldn't have done this without God. We couldn't have, you know what I'm saying? If He wasn't walking us through what it is that we're walking through now, I don't think it would have turned out this way. So that's probably
Absolutely.
my family.
And what is your next chapter?
My
What's next
next
for you?
chapter, that's a great question. I believe I'm going to put out another book in
Yes.
2024.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Speak it, girl.
and I believe also that I am going to be on the move with just spreading my story, this message, empowering other moms, leaders, women, people across the
Mhm.
world to just go be great, seriously, and to go after everything and do everything and trust yourself. I think that's one of the things that I'm learning through this process as well, because when I first came home and told my husband, I think I want to write a children's book, he was like, okay, do it. And I was like, you're not going to ask me like where that come from or why? Or he was like, nope, just do it.
Right.
And I'm like, Kori, this is you second guessing yourself. Just do it.
Right.
If that's what the Lord gave you, I wrote it down in like my devotional journal that I have, wrote the story out and everything. And I was like, well, God, you gave it to me. You gave it to me like this. I'm going to just go with it. And I think that we need to kind of stay in that vein and just kind of walk in it with boldness.
Right. And I think I heard somebody recently who said that God wouldn't give you anything that wouldn't work. You have to be the one that, if he gave you the vision, it's going to work, but you have to be the one that's going to follow it through and trust the process and trust
Exactly.
God. So
Exactly.
absolutely. And I'm not sure if you mentioned that if you live in Durham County, it is at the library, right? The
It
book.
is at the library.
Feature horn.
Yes, we are in 3 of the libraries in Durham County. So if you want, you can take your kids to the library and check the book out. The last time I went, I think at 2 of the libraries, it was already checked out.
Yes.
But it's okay because the more you guys go and check it out, the more orders they request and the more books I can provide. So
absolutely.
Definitely.
It's even better to have your own copy.
Yes, it is. Yes. Grab you a copy for your kids, your nieces, your nephews,
Yes,
your
absolutely.
family. Like she said, Christmas is coming up. So make sure you have it up under that tree. Get it, get it, get it. We can come to your classrooms or your schools. You can order it for your kids' classrooms, however you need to get it. But we're just trying to get the message out there.
Yes, absolutely. And then just kudos to you, Kori, because number one, it's not a whole lot of Black female authors. So I just, again, the children's authors at that too. Mm-hmm. So my hat's off to you. So let's support her and what she's doing and her vision. Because again, thank you so much for being my S.H.E.R.O. You have sacrificed for your children. You have healed from your past hurts. You're out here evolving into what God wants you to be. You sat here today, revealed your truth, and you out here obtaining your goals and happiness, being an author. I'm just looking forward to seeing what God has in store for you because I know he has much more for you. And so, like I said to you all tonight, thank you for coming as well. But go out and support Kori and her vision and what she's doing. This is absolutely amazing. And like I said, Christmas right around the corner. This would be an absolute great Christmas gift for any little one. But support her and whatever she does, follow her to see what's next in her life. So Kori, thank you again. And thank you for being my S.H.E.R.O.